Hello everyone, TV here. Oh my god. Apparently it looks like I'll be doing about a good 3 to 4 videos every week, and the first 3 are going to be one after another because this entire season I'm watching 3 shows. We now have The Walking Dead, which just premiered this past weekend. We got Gotham, and now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then I got like a video going up either before the weekend, right before the weekend, or during the weekend, so to kind of give you guys something to watch. But man, I am getting tired, so I'm gonna try my best to keep this video a little brief because I'm getting kind of exhausted. But I am a little excited to talk about certain things that happened in this episode, and of course I am talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and this is episode 4 of season 2, entitled "Face My Enemy." Ha! Get it? Face. Anyways, and once again, really digging the momentum of this episode. Sure, they're not doing something that is breathtakingly epic, but they're still keeping certain things intact that they have established in the season premiere for this season. Okay, it's not like they are contradicting certain character tropes. They're just keeping things flowing, and they found their groove, and they're just gonna stick with it. Sure, they're still retaining that feel that we had early on in the last season, which is that whole case of the week type of thing. But here, they feel way more connected because they are a band of renegades. They're looking for things to reestablish S.H.I.E.L.D. as a legitimate organization. It's not an actual organization. They are simply just being told to, oh hey, look, go look for that. Oh hey, go look for that. And they're all disconnected until eventually we hit to that huge connection that we had in the last season that tied in with the Winter Soldier. Here, it's one continuous thing because they don't have other sources. They don't have somebody telling them to go here, here, and there. They're calling their own shots by having them all be connected to this whole thing with Hydra that happened in the Winter Soldier. And that continues here. And this time, they are looking for an asset that Hydra is also looking for as well, but this time it's not a person. It's not a person with abilities like with Blizzard or Absorbing Man, whatever. This time it is a painting, and it's a by the numbers painting that belonged to a church that somehow got burned down. But it turns out that this painting had carvings on the back of it that resembled those of the carvings that Coulson was making at the end of, what was it, last week's episode or the episode before? I can't remember if it was last week's episode or the week or the episode before. I think it was the episode before, the second episode, where we see that Coulson is still suffering from those episodes where he has to carve these things, and because that shows some kind of interest to Coulson, obviously he's gonna go after it, but he keeps his team in the dark. And out of this entire team, the one that is burning with questions about as to why they're looking for this thing in the first place is Skye, and I feel like that's the only minor, tiny step back that this episode took so far in this season as opposed to the previous episodes, and that's taking Skye and putting her back to where she was practically all of season 1, which is back in the bus, hacking away, figuring out certain things for the agents that are on the field to do their own thing. I really love seeing her on the field being more proactive in the 2 or so episodes that we've had so far in this season. So it's somewhat of a shame to see her go back to being just a simple hacker. Sure, it's nice that she cares about Coulson and she's doing her own little investigation as to what this means to Coulson because she loves him, she cares about him. It's like he's been like a father figure practically this entire time. So that's nice, but I hope that her role in the group doesn't get regulated once again to just being a hacker. But hey, she's not alone. She's also got those other members of the group, Mac, Hunter, who else? Trip and Fitz, who are trying to help her out as well while this episode-long mission happens with May and Coulson, who are actually on the field this time. And I'll get to them in a second, but in the background, despite Skye wanting to investigate what this all means, I loved her interplay with the rest of the group, and then the rest of that group having their own interplay. And not only was their dialogue good, and I felt a sense of camaraderie among them, but that also made me feel all the more frustrating for Fitz, who kept omitting himself from the whole thing. He kept feeling all emo, like, oh, I don't belong, because I can't talk, or whatever. And If this was back in season 1, I would feel very frustrated for the character, or by the character I should say, because there's a difference between feeling frustrated for a character and feeling frustrated by a character. If this was season 1, I will feel frustrated by Fitz. I'm like, dude, come on. And I feel that more out of personal experience because I've been Fitz. I was Fitz. So to kind of see like you know, past reflection on myself in that character, I'm kind of like, dude, come on, just talk, because your life is gonna be a whole lot better if you talk with other people. Here, however, I did feel frustrated for Fitz because he did go through that rather physically and emotionally traumatic shit that happened at the end of last season. So I kind of understood that. And fortunately, once again, they progressed his character by having him bond with the other guys by the end of the episode. Not only with that beer that they're shared, but also his involvement in saving the bus from being from self-destructing. And I'm hoping, and also, I don't know if you noticed, but I think in this episode you saw a whole lot less imaginary Simmons. Granted, we didn't really see the real Simmons at all, but we saw a whole lot less of her, and starting to vanish voluntarily from Fitz's own will. So I'm hoping that those are very glaring signs that Fitz is going to be okay, and he's going to be a very redeemable character. But while all the youngsters are on the bus, guess who's on the field? May and Coulson. And my god, what a perfect choice to have these two be on the field taking action this time around than the other guys. Now, that's not to undermine the other agents, but this was a bold move because they are a little older, but they also come with the experience. And like Coulson and May talked about, the nostalgia effect. And it was just an excellent choice because, first of all, I know that among the females, I said that my personal preference would have been Elizabeth Henstridge, but May in that dress, or in this episode for that matter, but more importantly, the chemistry she has with Coulson, talking about their past, talking about things that the little things that they liked about each other, while at the same time remaining professional. I loved it. I love these two characters, so it was a really good choice to have them be on the field. And you know, like I said, not to undermine the younger agents, the younger characters in the series, but I felt like the stakes were higher with these two because I love them so much, especially May, because she has come so far from the beginning of the first season where she was just very stoic and that was just all her. But since then she has developed, despite still keeping that same kind of face, pun intended, certain layers to her character have been peeled since then, whether it be her involvement with Ward or her past with Coulson. She's come a long way. So to have her talk with Coulson not only about this current mission, but the plan that Coulson keeps insisting on, which I'll talk about in a second, it just offered a new dynamic to the character and made me feel the character a whole lot more and made her more badass when she needed to be. And like I said, her chemistry with Coulson was just excellent, and Ming-Na Wen and Clark Gregg, they delivered great performances for those characters as well. My only gripe is that I liked the back and forth that was going on with Talbot. You know, at first you're like, okay, why is Talbot here? But then it turns out that he might be a Hydra agent, being that he was talking to Whitehall, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's Talbot, so it kind of makes sense that he turns out to be Hydra. But then they flip-flop by revealing that Talbot was actually that British guy, that second in command to Whitehall, and that this other girl disguises herself as May, using the same technology that Black Widow used at the end of the Winter Soldier. I like that little connection there because it is S.H.I.E.L.D. technology that is now Hydra technology because of the events that happened in the Winter Soldier. So it's cool that it seems like it's standard issue for S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, so it made sense that Black Widow used it in the Winter Soldier movie, but now we got Hydra agents using it to find out who's in control of S.H.I.E.L.D. And my only gripe is that I kind of don't get how these Hydra agents knew about Talbot and knew how to use them. I mean, maybe it's a line of dialogue that I missed, and maybe if I go back to it, I'll find it. And if it is, then okay, gripe retracted. But I hope that there was a way to explain that. Now, what I do find interesting is that these guys weren't really taken out. Okay, maybe the girl, maybe she might be dead because they may manage to fry her face there. But we know for a fact that the other dude is not dead, because he simply just got iced, and that extraction team did manage to get there, so I'm pretty sure that they're fine. The girl, however, knows who the director is, Coulson, who unfortunately spilled the beans before finally catching on to this May not really being May, which also, gotta polish off those effects a little bit. I mean, I understand it's TV, but there were certain moments where one of the Mays, their head was floating. It's like, ugh, it's creepy. But being that one of them knows, how is Whitehall gonna use this to his advantage? The only thing that we know about Whitehall in this episode is that by the end of the episode, we learn that he tracks down Reyna. Again, I don't know how. Maybe security camera or whatever. I'm not going to look too much into it. But he tracks down Reyna, realizing that she's the one who took the obelisk. And basically just says, hey, you got 2 days to bring me back the obelisk, or else you're gone. And again, I find the methods that Whitehall is threatening to use much more intimidating than the character himself. I'm hoping that they add a new layer or a new dimension to the character in the next few episodes, rather than to him just be a bad guy saying, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm evil. I mean, he's not that cartoony. He's more subdued, but you gotta add a new dimension to the character to make him cool. You know who else also needs another dimension or another layer of development? Freaking Trip. Okay, I never really noticed this before, but I think I recently thought of this since last week's episode. And that is that, yeah, you know, we're getting some really good development going on with Fitz. Can we see a little bit of that with Triplett here, who's literally, he's like the T-Dog of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And not just because he's blonde, but so that's legitimately just a coincidence. All right, that's it. But he's not really doing a whole lot. I mean, sure, you know, maybe he's an essential part of whatever mission he manages to go on, but in terms of character development or any huge significance to the team, he's kind of expendable at this point. I'm hoping that they do something with him, rather than for him to just be taking space where it could be taken up from by another much more interesting character. And I guess the only last thing that I can talk about is the big conversation between May and Coulson at the end of the episode. That, you know, speaking of T-Dog, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going all Walking Dead up on us, because especially after the season 5 premiere, Coulson says that if this gets worse and I suddenly become like Garrett did, then there's really no choice. You know, no cabin in Australia is going to be able to take care of me. I will come back because I'm not going to be me. So you got to take me out. And this conversation, this scene did two things for me. One, again, it really weighed the stakes, especially between these two characters who I really care about, and I really saw the gravity in their eyes. Like, yeah, this is real. Like Coulson said, nostalgia is cool, but we got to face reality, and I felt like I faced it with them in that scene. Again, the credit goes to the performances for those actors, but also because it was written very well, and they've come a long way, especially May. However, the second thing that I did that is a bummer, but I guess you can't keep going forever, is that this may be foreshadowing the possible exit of Clark Gregg from the show, saying, hey, I want to direct more, because if you guys didn't know, not only is he an actor, but he's also a director, so maybe he wants to move on to other things. And maybe now May's going to be the main character, and maybe she'll be able to expand her emotions rather than being stoic most of the time, even though that's not that much of a problem anymore, unlike season 1. But it did look like Clark Gregg was looking at the screen and saying, you know, better start preparing that farewell party for the cast and crew, because my contract might be up. But this, along with a couple of other nitpicks that I had about the episode, couldn't keep me away from fully enjoying it. And like I said, they're still maintaining that momentum. And something that I appreciate about the new season, as opposed to the first season, is that because they're renegades, like I stated at the beginning, this all feels much more naturally connected, as opposed to the case of the week scenarios that we had in the first 6 or 7 episodes of season 1. And because of that, I felt like this episode once again kept the momentum going, kept the pacing going, made me like the characters, made me feel for the characters, while at the same time giving us a good feel for how big the stakes are. So I'm once again going to give episode 5, Face My Enemy, an 8 out of 10. But it's a rather high 8 out of 10. And yeah, I'm going to go take a break because it looks like it's going to be like this for the next few weeks with all these television shows that are on right now. Unless, you know, there happens to be a break between the two network shows, which are Gotham and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, which I'm pretty sure there will be. But I will for sure catch you guys next time. See you then.